Work a typical 8 to 5 job. Come home and typically drown half-1/3 of a 750 milliliters to 1 liter bottle of rum or whiskey a night. Don't particularly feel like stopping, but leaving it up to the community. Cheers, gonna go get another glass. Wow, I honestly didn't expect this overwhelming level of support. I figured given the subreddit, and the topic matter that this would be labeled a shitpost, and downvoted into the void. I didn't post this to farm for karma, or to try to gain anything really, otherwise I wouldn't have used a throwaway. I posted this with the knowledge that I really need to stop, or at least limit my drinking. I set an arbitrary number of upvotes because I didn't expect this score to ever hit a positive threshold. The outpouring of support and advice from the community is far beyond what I ever expected or even dreamed to be possible. I guess this post has really just made me admit something to myself that I've known for a while. I've been telling myself it was in my best interest to stop drinking. Heck, I even started making attempts to lower my intake prior to my vacation a few weeks ago, and it was going fairly well. My reward for limiting my intake was being bashed over vacation for still drinking too much. In the real world, I come from a family of alcoholics and drug addicts. I never really get support, rather only criticism. My plan is to taper myself off by reducing my intake of alcohol by 1 to 2 drinks a day for the next 2 weeks. September 1st marks my first sober day in months. A lot of people asked for updates, and I don't quite know where I'd even post such a thing, but I'll probably head over to beginning that day. Update 1. Well, I set my goal to be sober by September 1st. I tried to taper down a bit before quitting, but I ended up rushing it a bit to meet my September 1st goal. On Monday I had 6 to 7 drinks, on Tuesday I had 6, on Wednesday I had 5, and on Thursday I had 3. I spent the last 2-ish years consuming a pretty heavy amount of alcohol, and in the last 8 months, I spent nearly no days sober. In fact, April forward, I hadn't spent a single day sober. I limited my drinking to the evenings, but I was consuming roughly half a 750 milliliters of whiskey an evening, sometimes 1 to 2 drinks more. I feel alright right now, and I'm just hoping I don't end up developing DTs within the next day or two. My heart rate has remained around 90 to 100, my anxiety is through the roof, and I feel moderate disassociation. I haven't really had any shakes, hallucinations, and while I do feel a bit nauseous, I haven't vomited. However, I do feel so much better knowing that I was consciously able to limit my drinking leading up to my goal date. I feel good knowing that while there is a lot of alcohol in the house, and that I could easily go open a bottle, I'm making the decision not to. Commenter, it wasn't until a few days in that I felt ready to pour out my bottle, but I'm so grateful I did it the very minute I felt able to. Didn't delay, didn't overthink it, and now I feel such relief that to drink again would require me to make an effort. I'm lazy, lol. Never thought I'd be thankful for that quality, but I am. Update 2. Been alcohol free since the 1st of the month. Only a bit more than a week in, and things are looking up. I'm more productive at work, and home. I'm taking interest in things outside of work again. It's amazing how much time you actually have left in your day when you're sober. The first 2 to 3 days were hell. Days 4 and 5 left me feeling more energized. And now I feel pretty much normal. My only real complaint currently is very restless sleep and strange dreams, which in turn cause me to have a horrible time waking up in the morning. Overall things are going well. I'll probably do one final update at the end of the month in this post. All future updates will be in. Update 3. I've been sober since the 1st of this month, and honestly it's been pretty easy going. The first few days of withdrawals were incredibly mild compared to what I was expecting. I've spent the last 3 years drinking incredibly heavily. I can pretty confidently say that in the 3 years that I've been of legal drinking age, I probably haven't gone a single full week without drinking something, and definitely not more than 2 weeks without getting drunk. In January of this year, things began to spiral out of control. I took a cruise back in January, and spent nearly 2 weeks drinking 15 plus drinks a day. Once we got back home, I calmed down a bit. However, as April rolled around, I started drinking more and more, with no sober days in between. It got to a point sometime around mid-April/May that I was consuming more than half a 750 milliliters bottle of whiskey a night, and some nights I was going through more than 0.5 liters. I can pretty confidently say that from April 1st to August 31st I drank a minimum of 5 to 6 drinks an evening, and I was probably topping out somewhere in excess of 20 to 30 on the weekends. I've been telling myself for years that I don't have a problem. For one, I kicked the habit back when I was 18 after a DUI. On top of that, if I ever had to drive or was in a scenario where I needed to drink in moderation, I was more than happy to not drink or to limit my drinks to 1 per hour. On top of that, for the most part, I constrained my drinking to the evenings, 5 to 11 p.m., and the only time I deviated from this was when I had the day off work or it was a weekend. Even then, I tried to wait until later in the afternoon. That being said, I had started seeing the physical changes for well over a year. I had gained quite a bit of weight, my sleep was somewhat erratic, I was constantly drenched in sweat, and my motivation to do anything was pretty much abysmal. So here I am, 13, nearly 14, days in and I feel nearly fine. I've been able to go out to dinner with my girlfriend and opt not to drink even when she is. I have the fridge stocked with plenty of beer, and I've had little to no desire to drink any of them. Don't get me wrong, a nice cold beer at the end of a long day of work sounds like a great way to ease myself into bed, but simply not having one also seems like an equally good and healthier option. My only real qualm about not having one before bed is that ever since I quit drinking, I simply cannot wake up in the mornings. My alarms go off, I somehow turn them off, but I don't remember a thing. I feel like I'm sleeping okay, but the mornings are brutal. Now on to the real reason I made this post. A few friends asked if I wanted to host the Triple G/Canelo fight this Saturday, as I'd hosted Mayweather/MC Gregor, and I have a generally nice place to watch it. I obviously agreed, and had no qualms about doing so. However, my friends enjoy drinking, not always necessarily in excess, but I do expect the booze to be flowing rather freely. When I host a party, I try to make it a point to stay pretty coherent and sociable, but drinking has always played a key role. Honestly, just thinking about having all my friends over without me having at least a few drinks gives me some pretty serious anxiety. I've had pretty awful social anxiety most of my life, and drinking, even in moderation, makes handling it far more enjoyable for me. I know deep down that if I were to drink Saturday, I wouldn't relapse, I wouldn't overdo it, and I wouldn't throw away my progress I've made. I know this because I've set a goal for myself, and I can consciously control myself when I've set them. That being said, I also set a goal for myself not to drink period, and by breaking that goal, I will feel as if I've failed. Regardless of the fact that I know it'd be a one-off thing, I'd still have betrayed my own word. Update 4. So a couple years ago I made a drunken post on about stopping drinking. It was a lot of things, a shitpost, a throwaway karma grab, but also a genuine cry for help. That post forced me to take a long, hard look in the mirror and gauge what I was doing with my life. I didn't have a problem, I didn't have any real issues, I wasn't an alcoholic. At least, that's what I told myself as I made a beeline to the liquor store at the last minute when I remembered I was out of liquor at home. When I made my original post, I made a statement about getting sober for a year. Truth be told, I fell a bit short. I made it about 2 months before I cracked open another bottle. I didn't immediately dive back into drinking half a liter of liquor a day, but I did start drinking again. At first it was just a few drinks on the weekends. Then 1 or 2 some nights during the week. Around the holidays, the in-laws came to visit, and while they were here, I drank a bit heavily. After they left, I didn't really downsize my drinking that much. Around February 2018 I slowed back down. I was still drinking most, if not every evening, but it was only 1 or 2 drinks a night. That soon became 3 or 4 a night, and I could feel old habits returning. Throughout 2018 I worked on myself a lot. I started going back to the gym every day. I started eating right, and I started addressing my drinking again. By all measures, my drinking was probably at a socially acceptable level, but it wasn't at a personally acceptable level. When I did my yearly company blood draw in October, I was pleasantly surprised that all of my blood work came back fantastic. By all measures, aside from my weight, on paper I looked perfectly healthy. This was a far cry from my horrible blood draws from previous years. However, I still was not super content with my choices. I had initially replaced a significant amount of my drinking with marijuana, but I began mixing both alcohol and marijuana at levels comparable to where I was before. However, this time, something was different. I felt like I had significantly more control over my vices, but it's somewhat difficult for me to explain. However, from roughly August to December, I was still using alcohol in moderation, but I felt like I finally had control over it. Starting about 3 weeks ago I finally had my real test. I've begun experiencing strange episodes. They're very similar to panic attacks or anxiety attacks. Currently, my physicians are running every test under the sun and everything keeps coming back completely perfect. It's an odd ordeal, but for the time being I'm on some medication to prevent my pulse and blood pressure from randomly spiking. The real test came when I was put on the medication. My physician said that I could likely continue my current lifestyle without any complications. I could continue using all the substances I was using, and I'd be fine. However, I ended up surprising myself. As soon as I started the medication, I stopped everything. And I truly mean everything. From the minute I started the medication, I've put down caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, marijuana, soft drinks, energy drinks, etc. I have been saying this entire time that I have control, and I had multiple stints where I would stop for weeks or months, but I always had some apprehension to quitting or another vice to turn to. This time it felt different. I still have liquor in the cabinet, beer in the fridge, marijuana in the house, and yet I don't really feel tempted. I can watch my fiancé smoke, and I can mix drinks for my friends and I don't waver in the slightest. I managed to give up all of my biggest vices in a single swoop, and I don't feel a single tinge of hesitance or regret. Commenter: this is awesome, amazing and so inspiring. Thank you for sharing. I did indeed find this post by viewing the top posts of, and I'm so glad to hear that you didn't let some small slip-ups get the best of you. What do you think it was about the medication that triggered you to make this change? Just a wake-up call of truly needing to get your shit together, health-wise? I know that marijuana isn't unhealthy for you, but I don't necessarily think it's good for you either. Coming from someone getting over a serious marijuana addiction, it is a true testament to your willpower when you can have the substances around, and be around people imbibing and not be tempted. I'm so proud of you, stranger. Keep on keeping on. Oop. I did my yearly blood draw for work back in October 2016 and it was atrocious. Nothing was dangerously high, but they definitely weren't great values for a 23-year-old. In 2017, I had taken a break from drinking a couple months prior to my blood draw, and some of my values improved, but it was still pretty mediocre at best. In 2018, I had slowed down my drinking, at least the quantity I drank, but not the frequency. On August 1, 2018, I hit the highest weight I've ever been. I immediately started making changes. I didn't stop drinking, but I again reduced how much I was having, 2 to 8 ounces of liquor a day. I was going to the gym 5 days a week, eating better, and just working on being better in general. When I went to do my 2018 blood draw, pretty much everything was great. Cholesterol was A but high, but not dangerously so. My blood pressure was normal, my weight was down / 40 to 45 pounds since August, liver enzymes were great, everything was awesome. Over the holidays I skipped the gym, but I did do quite a bit of hiking while on vacation, and still maintained my diet. In fact, I'm still losing weight. When whatever health condition I currently have started affecting me, I simply knew it was time to just put everything down for a while. I'm dedicated to living a healthier life, and I can't do that if I'm drinking and smoking every single night. I'll gladly go back to smoking on occasion and maybe having a drink here and there at some point in the future, but I'm not going to continue putting my health at risk while being a sedentary lush. Update 5. So I've been 100% sober from all substances, alcohol, cannabis, and caffeine, since February 12th, and I still have zero desire to break the streak. I was getting ready for bed this evening and it occurred to me that despite having a house full of alcohol and cannabis, and a partner that uses both regularly, in moderation, I've had no real desire to use either. I'm more productive than I've ever been, and I'm more than happy to mix drinks for my partner and friends without even the slightest temptation to have some myself. It's a strange sensation. Every other time I've attempted sobriety or taken a break, it has felt like an accomplishment when I managed to avoid drinking for another day. This time is different. I'm not even aware that I'm not drinking. The fact that I made it another day doesn't even cross my mind. I'm not sure what's so different about this time, but it's pretty awesome. Update 6. I figured I'd come back and update everyone. In 2017, after my last update, I stayed sober for a couple months. After that, I felt it was safe to return to drinking in moderation, and I did. For a while, things were great, I was doing great at moderation. However, after a few vacations, I fell back into the habit of drinking daily, never as much as before, but still at a frequency I wasn't comfortable with. As of February 12, 2019, I'm again taking an extended sobriety break. From all substances, caffeine, cannabis, alcohol, etc. I'll likely return to cannabis at some point in the future, but I'm not sure when or if I'll reintroduce alcohol. I can definitely moderate if I'm conscious about it, but it's when I stop being conscious of it that I begin to slip. It's far easier for me not to take that first drink. Since quitting again, this time feels different. It's like I've actually lost all desire to even have alcohol. The smell of it makes me nauseous, and I have about as much temptation to drink as I do to place my hand in a blender. Commenter: good, you in AA now? Want to go back and edit the original post to help others when they find it? Also, how did you know it was viewed by almost 400k people? Oop, no AA or anything like that. I just decided to stop and did. There was some other factors at play, but nothing crazy like liver failure, job loss, or my partner leaving. As for the view count, I'm not sure how you do it now, but you used to be able to see the number of views a post had. Update 7. Well, here I am. It's been well over 2 months and I have no signs of caving. I've had multiple parties at home, gone out several times, and have been surrounded by alcohol, but I've still been able to abstain, without even a second thought. I've been pouring most of my time, energy, and focus into improving myself. I've been eating healthy, going to the gym, and spending most of my downtime doing healthy activities. I'm to the point where if I drop another 10 pounds, my doctor is going to remove me from my medication, and I'll be the healthiest I've been in about 4 years. Update 8. Well folks, I've made it to day 100. Everything seems to be pretty smooth sailing at this point. I haven't really had any cravings to drink, and I've had minimal cravings to toke. I'll likely return to the latter in the near future, but no real rush for me. I'm enjoying the newfound energy, time, and focus. Some of the things I've been through and things that have changed over the last 100 days. I even had a birthday a couple days ago, a day I always use as an excuse to get hammered. It's been a time-honored tradition of mine since age 14, and I made it through clean and sober. I had a nice dinner with my fiancée, and all was well. I'm not sure what switch flipped in me, but it's as if the desire to get drunk has simply disappeared. I'm not sure if drinking again in the future is on or off the table, but for now I'm going to continue avoiding it. Besides, I've been slaving away in the gym 5 days a week. I don't want to ruin all the hard work I've been putting in over the last year. Plus with my wedding coming up in about a year, I want to be in the best shape of my life. Update 9. Life has mostly been on the up and up, especially lately. I got married in 2020 to my partner since 2014. In 2022, we welcomed our first child, which has been a huge motivator in my journey. I'm continuing to build my life, career, and future plans. After my 2017 post, I started to slow down and stop drinking. I still partook occasionally, but not daily. The pandemic changed that. Being stuck indoors, I began drinking daily again. By 2021, I had developed a physical dependence. Realizing this, I went to my GP and was prescribed a week of benzodiazepines to taper off. Post-taper, things improved, though I still drank on some weekends. After our child was born in 2022, I had a couple of nights where I drank too much. If I drank, I always slept on the couch to avoid any potential harm. One night, I was too drunk to help my wife with our child. That was a wake-up call. I poured out the remaining alcohol and stopped drinking for several months. On our anniversary, I tried some liquor, but it felt dirty. I tried again on New Year's with the same result. There was no dopamine feedback, just a wrong feeling. I haven't touched alcohol since then. Alcohol is not a struggle for me now. I can't say it never will be again, but the desire is gone. I've identified my core drivers. I've always had dopamine regulation issues, evident since elementary school. If my mind wasn't actively engaged, I couldn't relax or enjoy myself. Alcohol was a quick dopamine fix. I knew I could avoid alcohol by staying busy but never understood why. Recently, I was formally diagnosed with ADHD. This diagnosis has helped me understand my past behaviors and gain new perspective. My life is more chaotic and stressful than ever, but I don't have time to waste dulling my mental faculties. I have a future to build for myself and my family. Plus, I've been nicotine-free for over a year. Now on to second story. Told my sister she's ruined her marriage by denying her husband's dying mom the chance to meet their newborn, and now she's heartbroken. I, 21F, have an older sister Eve, 29F, who had her first child, Lori, 1F, and while this should be a time of joy and excitement, there's actually a lot of tension and brewing resentment between her, our mom, and her husband Jack, 29 meters. Despite it being unplanned, Eve's pregnancy was wanted and Jack was an involved partner. He went to most of Eve's appointments, took the birthing classes, and supported Eve's decision to just have our mom in the room while he wanted outside when she gave birth. The plan was for our mom to be by Eve's side in the room and to help stay for a week after Lori was born. Everyone was cool with this, but unfortunately our aunt got into some drama with her husband in another state and our mom rushed over to be at her sister's side. Eve was already in her third trimester, so Jack didn't like the idea of our mom going and voiced it. Our mom tore Jack a new one and Eve even got on his case about it, so he apologized. However, Eve ended up going into labor and Jack ultimately was the one in the room while our mom was away. When she called, our mom expressed being sad over not being there for the birth of her first grandchild, and she and Eve decided that no one else in the family would see Lori until she got back. Without discussing it with Jack. He was understandably not happy as his mom lived about 45 minutes away and was looking forward to meeting Lori too, as she was the first grandchild on both sides. Eve pulled the "I just gave birth" card and Jack reluctantly allowed it. On the day that our mom was supposed to come back, she missed her flight and couldn't get a new one until the following morning. Our mom could have just rented a car, but she didn't want to spend the money since the airline wouldn't refund the money. Jack was brought up allowing his mom to come again, but Eve refused, citing that he already agreed. Unfortunately, Jack's mom was in a car accident and passed before ever getting to meet Lori, since Eve wouldn't even allow a video chat. Jack was distraught. He moved to the guest bedroom, went to the funeral alone, and refuses to engage with Eve at all. Jack's side of the family keeps calling and messaging Eve to tell her what a selfish and awful person she is, and Jack refuses to defend. Eventually, Eve got sick of it and packed up and left to our mom's house to teach Jack a lesson, but he hasn't texted or called. Our mom thinks that he just needs some space and that he'll call soon, but I just laughed at that. Didn't mean to though. My mom and Eve asked me why I laughed and I tried to brush it off or even leave, but they couldn't let me, and pressed for answer. Eventually, I told her that while the accident wasn't her fault, she did keep Lori away from Jack's mom meeting her for a week, and now she never will. There's no way Jack is going to ever love you enough to forgive that, and that you should prepare for the worst. Eve started to bawl her eyes out while mom berated me, so I left. Ida? Edit. Just to clarify, because I keep seeing this, when the accident first happened, Eve has apologized 3 separate times. Jack has admitted to this, and Eve intended to go to the funeral with him, but he drove off without her. Jack does interact with Lori. It's Eve that he's icing out, and my niece is the only thing he's willing to talk to Eve about. Jack had been living in the guest room for 5 months before Eve left. She's offered to go to couples counseling, but Jack has refused.